Kalen DeBoer is the name everyone wants to talk about in pretty much every coaching search. He said there was no interest in Penn State. He has a pretty reasonable buyout, $4 million this coming season, or this offseason. You are looking at a guy who only lost a few games at Washington, only lost a few games at Fresno State. Really, I got turned on to him when he was the offensive coordinator at Indiana, and you saw what they did with that offense. Jim Harbaugh was impressed and hired away one of his assistant coaches. The wrong one, Greg Fry, but nonetheless, right? A lot of people were taking notice to what this Kalen DeBoer guy was doing coming off of his stint at Eastern Michigan from 2014 to 2016 as the offensive coordinator. And it's funny, back in 2006, 2007, there was a guy by the name of Dusty May who was an assistant coach at Eastern Michigan and whose realtor was Chrislyn Manuel, if I'm saying that right, Ward Manuel's wife, right? So it's amazing that these things happen years in advance that you have no clue could have an impact. And Dusty said that his time there really turned him on to what the Block M was all about and what this community was all about. So Kalen DeBoer has lived in the area. He's been an Eastern Michigan coach before. He's the number one call, I think, in terms of sitting college coaches. His team plays next Friday against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. It's going to be tough timing-wise to pull this off, but if you start to back channel, as you kind of alluded to, and the agent's talking and you let him focus on his game, but if they're out of it by next Friday night, you could be looking at something where something is done. Now, here's the thing. Why would he leave Alabama? It's one of the most coveted jobs in college football. You're coming off of Nick Saban. The theory for that is, he lost to Florida State, and you had Alabama fans up in arms. On3's Andy Staples reported that a very large Alabama booster was displeased with the Kalen DeBoer era. They were 5-5 in their last 10 games at that point. And right, they lose one game and the sky is falling. And that can be the case at Michigan at times, not to the extent that it is at a place like Alabama, where their fans are extremely spoiled, and good for them because they won a lot. And, whatever they were doing behind the scenes to make that happen with the Red Elephant Club is what it is. But the pressure is a little bit less, and it's a place that I think he has eyed in the past. I heard this before, and we put it in Inside the Fort before the national championship game against Washington in January of 2024, talking to someone who's tied in with the Washington program, that people at Washington were afraid of losing Kalen DeBoer to Michigan if Jim Harbaugh was going to jump to the NFL. And we reported that at the time in Inside the Fort over at thewolverine.com. Of course, the timing doesn't work out. If Nick Saban doesn't retire after losing his last game to Michigan in the Rose Bowl in the CFP semifinal, Kalen DeBoer might be the Michigan head coach right now. But timing didn't work out that way. This is a job he's eyed, and you said it. I mean, he would listen. I would bet he would listen as well, and that's that's more than enough to seek this out if you're Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. And that was great reporting by you, by the way, and back in the day. And it was funny because this is not something that's being made up or, when it comes to Michigan interest, fit matters, right? And people questioned the fit when he went to Alabama. It takes balls, let's be honest, to follow a legend like Nick Saban and to go somewhere, into that pressure cooker. So I give him credit for that. I questioned the fit too. And I thought, man, this is a guy who would be a good fit at Michigan. Right. And he checks a lot of those boxes. And I think he understands that. And I think he realizes that. Jonathan Smith, when he came from Oregon State, I said he was a good coach. What did we both say, Clay? Didn't seem like the right fit, right? In terms of their culture and everything else. And of course it blew up in their face. So that is one reason that you can say, okay, maybe I feel like I'm a better fit at Michigan, and obviously nothing against Alabama, which was one of the best programs of all time. I got a call last night from Timmy Watts, who runs the Alabama site. Our players, our fans are all pissed off at you for saying that Kalen's coming to Michigan. I said, I didn't say he was coming to Michigan. I said he is high on the list, and I said I think there would be some mutual interest if he decided he wanted to make a move. And I know that Michigan is high on him, and that what we heard a week ago when we unfortunately were talking about the possibilities, if we recall, is that maybe would he be too expensive for Michigan? And I'm thinking, are we stupid here? This is the University of Michigan. There better not be anybody too expensive for you. If you say that you were going to make Jim Harbaugh the highest paid coach in football, and I have my doubts, maybe they threw that out there after knowing that he was already leaving.
The 11th hour.
Yeah. Exactly. 11th and a half hour. Then you have no excuses here. You go out and you do not mess around and, nickel and dime anybody. You go out and get the best coach you can, especially now with the black eye that your program, both black eyes, you got two black eyes here. You're suffering here. Your program is, I'm not going to say it's a laughing stock, but holy hell, Clay, this is almost unbelievable, right? So you go out and you fix this thing by going out and getting the best coach you have. And you do not pinch pennies here. Go out and make the right hires. So to me, he's number one on the list. I think you do whatever you can to get him, and you hope, God, you don't root against the guy, but you kind of do. And it's funny, Clay, because I think they can beat Oklahoma and I think they can beat Indiana. I really do. They aren't playing great football, but if you look at their draw, this they could be playing. They could be playing in January. So if you have to wait, it's going to be tougher. But if you know what you're waiting for, and you can tell your players, hey, you can't maybe go into detail about it, but hey, we've got our guy. We just have to wait for a while. Then everybody knows the cat's out of the bag. So to me, he's my first call without a doubt. And I'm sure that there's already been some talks there.
The longer they go in the playoff, it's going to make it tougher. But if they do get bounced and they lose their second game this year to Oklahoma, a program that they feel they're much better than, and that's now in the conference with them, it may almost prove the point if the fan base jumps all over him for that loss. And then they may be saying stuff. If these rumors persist, then they may be saying stuff like, oh, you just go to Michigan. I mean, do you remember the viral call? It's one of my favorite things in college football history. The viral video, of the old lady in Tuscaloosa when the Powerball was huge back in September and they had just lost to Florida State. And she said, if I win the lottery, I'm going to pay Kalen DeBoer's buyout. Like, that is how, it's an old lady. Could you imagine an old lady in Ann Arbor doing that? It's just different down there. You mentioned the word in the phrase pressure cooker. It's exactly what it is. And I said it, like, to their credit for how much success they had for all those years under Nick Saban, they're a spoiled fan base. So if they lose and there's a freak out by the fan base, maybe something is done quickly, because again, they would almost prove the point with one loss being detrimental. But I think you're right. Alabama, I said it at one point, and I took a future on them on BetMGM to win the national championship. It still could come true. I thought they were the best team in the country at one point. It hasn't proved out that way lately, but they have the potential to be that. They were playing like it at one point in the season. The SEC championship game was a bit of a disaster. So, they have a lot of work to do here in improvement to show. But regardless, that's Kalen DeBoer. Jed Fisch is another guy who's a former Michigan assistant. So he's lived here. He's been in the program, been in Schembechler Hall, excelled in that role as pass game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach early on in the Jim Harbaugh tenure, the first 2 years. Wants to call plays. He leaves for UCLA to be the offensive coordinator. Michigan sticks with Tim Drevno. I think we can all agree that probably wasn't the right call, right? So, but regardless, Jed has been here. Jed did a really good job, I thought, at Arizona, building that program up. He left pretty quickly, as he has most stops, and he's a career riser, which I think lends credence to the statement you made earlier that he would walk here, and he may have to walk here given the buyout he'd have to pay, but then he'd get a nice sum, I think, from Michigan. He may not have enough money, maybe at least for first class, in for a couple days, couple weeks there before the first paycheck hits. Got a big buyout, one of the bigger ones in college football, because I think Washington realized that, hey, we are providing you this opportunity here. We don't want you to leave as well, like DeBoer did. But yeah, Jed, this would be a step up for him from Washington. He's done a solid job at Washington, salvaging what they had last year, making a bowl game, coming off of losing pretty much everyone on their roster and coaching staff from the national title runner-up team. Then this year, they take a step forward, right? You have the loss to Wisconsin, a little uneasy. You are getting a competent coach that is credible. If you get Jed Fisch, there are questions about the upside with him, but there's no question. He is a good coach. He's a great offensive mind. You and I have a lot of respect for him, as we talked about before the Washington game this year. but it's a little bit more risky of a hire. Certainly not as risky as Sherrone Moore, but it is somewhat risky.
Yeah, and I think right now he's probably 4th on the list, and I think he would come here in a heartbeat. Michigan's a destination job. You talk about being a nomad, right? We've heard that he's got family members who really like the warm weather and want to be down south, and that matters.
He's kind of a Florida guy.
He is, and that kind of matters.
Spurrier. Yeah.
Oh, no question. I think that the Florida thing, I think he really would have wanted that, right? So, but I, it's a destination job, and at the same time, his past and being the nomad that he is, I can understand why people would have questions, right? Is he going to want to be here? And, if something does open up down south, is he going to want to take it, even if it's Michigan? And so, but I do think he would like the job. I think that you can always tell by when some of his former players start coming out and saying things about him, that, okay, is he lobbying for it? My guess would probably be yes, a little bit. But the only reason that you don't discount, even if he's your 4th guy, is I go back to the Jim Tressel hire for Ohio State. I think he was 6th on their wish list. And you never know when it comes to
that one worked out.
It worked out pretty well. Yeah, for various reasons that we won't get into.
Until.
Yeah. Until it blew up in their face. But
but they won a lot of games.
They won a lot of games, and we beat Michigan. How dare you fire Jim Tressel? But anyway, you could get to him, and if that's a consolation hire, then you're doing pretty well, in my opinion. So would he be choice number 1? No. Would it stun me at all if it circled back and he was the guy? I wouldn't be stunned. I'd be surprised at this point, but he's definitely on the list.
No doubt. So that's one to watch. I mean, he's one of the first names that comes to mind as soon as you think of a Michigan opening, given his history, given that he is kind of one of those rising type of coaches. Jesse Minter, a lot of fans asking about too. And I think the show cause expires at some point this month, I believe. Yeah. And defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers. Every time you watch a Chargers game, of which there are many that I've watched, the announcers talk about how he could be next in line for an NFL head coaching job. You never know how the carousel there will play out, and he would have to wait. I assume you would wait, I guess. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs, this year, most likely at 9-4. It's been a pretty remarkable job that staff has done, considering all the injuries they've had. But, Jesse Minter should have gotten the job in hindsight the first time. It was just hard. Sherrone Moore had been here longer. He was the interim coach for the national championship. Everyone was kind of riding that high. He's a stud. I mean, his dad was a head coach at Cincinnati. He's got college experience. He's got NFL experience. One of the smartest dudes I've ever covered.
Yeah, and I was texting with somebody who talks to him every day, okay, last night, because obviously this is the job, right? You start talking to people close to candidates and stuff like that. And I got to find it because there are a million of them here. Jesse, first of all, the show cause you said expires in 5 days, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the 15th. Yeah. So now it's 5, yeah.
So Jesse Minter is an elite football coach. I don't care. Everybody's like, well, why would you want to take a chance on a guy who hasn't been a head coach? If you're going to take a chance on anybody in that role, it'd be Jesse Minter. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a great developer of talent. I think he is respected by everybody. And so my question last night to somebody who talks to him every day and knows him extremely well, Jesse wouldn't want to be a head coach, would he, at Michigan? And I was, half joking. And the response was, I'm sure he would. And I said, really? I said, I thought he would like the NFL. And he said, well, 2 things. Number 1, he's not coming here under the current administration. And I don't think it's any secret. And it's not us saying that, okay, there's no love lost between the Harbaugh clan and Ward Manuel and some of the people at Michigan right now. So if anybody wants to get mad at me for saying that, it's everywhere. It's not just us saying it. So he said, not if the current administration is there. He believes that he would be advised not to take it in the current climate at Michigan. So I asked him, he says, I talk to him every day. I said, do you think he would be interested? And he goes, he absolutely would. And he said he's going to do some more digging on that. So do I think it happens? I don't, unfortunately, because he would be high on my list, right? And right now I know for a fact that he's not one of the 4 names that we put up on our site last night as maybe the 4 leading candidates. They are all college coaches at this point. The interesting thing, Clay, was I talked to somebody who had talked to John Harbaugh, right? And we see what's going on with the Ravens. That's not going to happen most likely. Now, he did show interest 15 years ago or something like that, when I think it was a former Michigan player who was working for CBS at the time was talking about what it would take to get Jim Harbaugh here. And John said, why does it have to be Jim? And that piqued everybody's interest, but then he went on this tear with the Ravens. And of course, the NFL, he loves Baltimore, loved Baltimore. So, but that John loves this place too. Same thing applies though, if the current administration and stuff is here, that would never happen. And there would be a lot of things that would have to go into it for that to happen. But those are 2 guys. Jesse Minter would obviously be a much more likely candidate. And at this point, unfortunately, I think he's that's really not on the radar, but that could change as well.
Well, that could change is a key thing to mention there because of this. Their timeline is a little bit longer. The swim lane for them, to use that term and bring that back, is a little bit longer because of their NFL schedule. And, I would say as a Chargers fan over the last couple of years, Jesse, focus on the Chiefs this week, and then we'll talk. Next week, you got a big one on Sunday. But so if it is going to be somebody else making this decision in this hire outside of Ward Manuel, like we said, they got to act quickly and make a decision on who's going to make this, who's going to have input, what the committee is going to look like. And then, if it's somebody else, then I guess those options are open. So you don't have to be as quick with that. And you look at John Harbaugh, who would be an unbelievable hire. I mean, an unbelievable hire. And people who say that he hasn't been in college in a long time and whatever, these Harbaughs are the most competitive maniacs there are out there. He would figure out a way to win in today's college football. If you have super donors like Michigan has had, that can help you out a ton. Recruiting is more about NIL. I mean, we could go on and on as to why that could work. And I think he would immediately become one of, if not the best coaches in the country. Maybe, I mean, he's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's not going to happen most likely. I did want to make a point to you. Yeah, what you said about the donors. Donors were off the Sherrone Moore bandwagon for various reasons, big ones, even before this happened. And that was his own doing. And he was spending his time doing other things, as we've seen, right? If you look at his history, Sherrone Moore's history, how much time was he really spending on football and making Michigan better compared to, some other things? I think it's pretty clear at this point that, and I'm not trying to pile on him here, but that he was distracted, right? So they are, I think, going to get a donor or 2 back after this is all said and done. But the well was not what it was when they were able to get Bryce Underwood. I can promise you that. I know that for a fact. So this really, you hate to say had to happen, but it was really it was a train going in the wrong, going off the tracks here, Clay. So as we've been talking about for weeks. So, but John Harbaugh would have no problem getting money. None of these guys will, in my opinion. There are a lot of people that were, frankly, so turned off by different things that one even said that, hey, we're back on board if Biff Poggi is the coach. Well, Biff Poggi is now the interim coach, and Biff was dealing with some of these donors is the way we understand it. So, but the next coach has to earn the trust of these donors. Now, though, I think you get them back. So I just wanted to interject there and explain that part of it.
100%. And it's huge. I mean, that's the game now. Right?
It is.
So
that's where recruiting is now, Clay, right?
It is. I mean, relationships are important. Michigan has a lot to offer in general. So when you have that stuff still does matter, because if the offers are comparable, you have to pick one, and then there could be a bidding war or whatever. But people don't have unlimited resources. So you see Kelvin Russell tries to get more money on signing day, and then Miami and Michigan decide, well, no, we're not giving you more than what our initial offer was. We're out. We paid other guys. And so it's not totally unlimited. It's kind of as Dusty May put it, talking to him last week about roster construction. Yeah, we considered cap. I mean, I never thought I'd hear a college coach say that, but that's kind of where we're at, and the donors are a huge part of this. Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, kind of 2 more up-and-coming type of guys. They're on our Anthony Broom's wish list. So I'm going to read off his wish list real quick. He's in the air to LA right now. He's out there to bring Jesse home, Ben Herbert home. Kalen DeBoer, he says, doesn't need explaining, would be grand slam if they could pull him from Alabama. Wins everywhere, has now made 2 CFPs and a natty runner-up. Kenny Dillingham, if this was a week ago, Matt Campbell would be on the list. I think KD checks a lot of the same boxes, is a young CEO type who has already won and has upward trajectory. That team last year was fun to watch. That almost beat Texas. Yeah. That's me talking there. Jesse Minter, if he's good enough to get NFL head coaching buzz, he's good enough for Michigan. I don't think the timeline will wind up working out, but this is the only first-time head coach I'd consider. Eli Drinkwitz, as Dusty May would say, he's an irritant who would be a pain in the ass in a good way, has punched and recruited way above Missouri's weight class. Jed Fisch, he's fine, decently high floor, not sure there's a super high ceiling. So we'll continue to discuss more of these names over at thewolverine.com.